Tonight is a special show, as you might have guessed by now. Last week, Glenn Beck came to Canada. He was speaking at a fundraiser in Toronto, and although plenty of media organizations asked for interviews, plenty of people wanted to sit down with him, he chose us. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. I've heard from you. You think Glenn Beck is crazy. He's a racist. He's an anti-Semite. Okay, who told you that? Well, you read it in a newspaper, you saw it in a magazine, or you might say, Jon Stewart told me. Sure, the liberal media thinks Glenn Beck is crazy. They don't like him and they don't like his message. I promise you this, though. If you like my message, smaller government, pro-family, pro-liberty, standing up for the little guy that's just trying to do his best each and every day to scrape by, well, if you like that message, then you will like Glenn's message. Put away all the claims from the left-wing media, the same type of people that would call me crazy, a racist, an anti-Semite, and just listen to his message. When I sat down with Glenn last week, I was struck by how genuine, warm, and engaging he was, by his grasp of the issues. And I think you will be too. One of the things we talked about was the Middle East. Now, I've been clear from the day this program started that I have grave doubts about the Arab Spring. I'm not sure it's going to end well, not sure it's going well now. And I've felt this way since it all began. Sure, Hosni Mubarak in Egypt was a dirtbag, Ben Ali in Tunisia just as bad perhaps. But when all of this started, we weren't on air at Sun News yet. We hadn't launched. Most people were just going on about how great this Arab Spring was, and I found myself yelling at the TV like so many of you have done over the years. This is going to end badly, I was saying. Sure, Mubarak and Ali were bad, but who are they going to be replaced with? The Muslim Brotherhood? Relax, we were told. Everything's fine. In polite media company, everyone was cheering for this outbreak of democracy. Glenn Beck, though, was worried.
Egypt is now Muslim Brotherhood, or will be. Muslim Brotherhood, that's Sunni. Remember, Sunni. Iran is Shiite. They don't like each other. That's Hezbollah and Hamas. Both want Israel destroyed.
Beck was mocked for this and for claiming that there would be an attempt to resurrect the idea of a Muslim caliphate. That's a term that means dominion of the caliph being the successor in Islam. None of this were happen. We were told everything would be just fine. Now, Beck made that claim. That was from January 31st, 2011. Do you know when President Obama actually spoke in public on this issue for the first time? I do, because I was in the room. It was February 4th, 2011. The American media had been chomping at the bit to ask Obama questions, and he didn't want to answer. He ducked them several times. But then Prime Minister Stephen Harper went to Washington, and both men held a news conference. The Americans just about canceled it. That would have made my bosses real happy. Yeah, I know you sent me down here. Cost a lot of money, but they just handed us a news release and nobody wants to talk. Well, the news conference went ahead after much delay, and the Americans couldn't care less about the border deal both men were announcing. The American media wanted to know what the president had to say about the Arab Spring and the rallies in Tahrir Square.
In order for Egypt to have a bright future, which I believe it can have, the only thing that will work is moving a orderly transition process that begins right now, that engages all the parties, that leads to democratic practices, fair and free elections, a representative government that is responsive to the grievances of the Egyptian people.
Yeah, that's all good then. The president said everything's going to be fine. No one asked him about the Muslim Brotherhood. No one was suggesting that there could be problems. Well, actually, Prime Minister Stephen Harper did. He stood next to Obama and said any transition needed to respect the rule of law and protect the rights of minorities, especially religious minorities. He could see what was coming. But in the consensus media, nothing about the coming problems. And Beck's ideas, they were laughed at. Did you see what happened just over a week ago in Egypt? Did you see the election rally in Egypt where they called for a caliphate? And a cleric declared that when the Muslim Brotherhood candidate takes the Egyptian presidential election, that Jerusalem would be the new capital. Did you see that? I bet you would have seen the tape of Sarah Palin's kid said something stupid in a bar, or a conservative politician uttered something deemed inappropriate. But there's no need to show you a Muslim cleric declaring that Jerusalem will be the capital of the new caliphate when Mohammed Morsi, the Muslim Brotherhood candidate, wins the election.
ستعود الولايات المتحدة العربية على يد هذا الرجل ومن معه إن شاء الله. ستكون عاصمة الخلافة، ستكون عاصمة الولايات المتحدة العربية هي القدس إن شاء الله.
Safwat Hagazi made those comments in front of Morsi. In fact, you could see it on the camera. He pointed to the men on the stage. Morsi can be seen nodding in agreement. Oh, and by the way, this mostly moderate, secular group that Morsi leads, the Muslim Brotherhood, well, its supporters were led in chants of millions of martyrs will march towards Jerusalem. I think Beck got this one closer to right than Obama did. But of course, Glenn Beck is the crazy one. Look, I'm not a Glenn Beck acolyte. Yes, I'm a fan, but so are millions of others. Now, I can see the man's had problems. He's admitted to those. He's a recovering alcoholic. His first marriage crumbled. He rose to the top ranks of top 40 DJs, then came crashing down. He went from job to job, unable to hold any one position for a significant length of time. All of this is Glenn's put it out in the open. He's invited people to dissect it. In one of his best-selling books, The 7 Wonders That Will Change Your Life, Beck teamed up with a shrink, Dr. Keith Ablow. He described in horrid detail how bad things got, waking up in an apartment with shag carpeting, not knowing what had happened the night before, and then his 2 daughters, just little girls at the time, asking if he could tell them the story he'd told them the night before. It was the best story ever, they told him. He couldn't remember it. He'd blacked out. Scary. So what did he do? What did this man that used to drink 2 big gulp cups full of Jack Daniels every day, what did he do? He got help. He sobered up. It took time, but he turned his life around. Just a day or two before we sat down for the interview, it was announced that Beck signed a new 5-year contract for his syndicated radio program. It's heard on hundreds of stations across the U.S. by millions of fans. He signed a 5-year deal worth a reported $100 million. But of course, he's just a showman, a sham, a con artist. Funny, I worked in talk radio for many years in this country. And that's the same kind of thing I heard about our own talk radio heroes, be they Charles Adler, Lowell Green, Tommy Schnurmacher, Dave Rutherford. All of these guys have been attacked by the left-wing media in this country for refusing to march to the consensus drumbeat. And that's the same reason Beck is attacked. He won't march to their beat. We'll bring you the interview shortly, and you're really going to like what he says about entitlement culture and the need for charity. When it comes to our shared belief that governments become too large, too intrusive in our lives, when it comes to the belief that families don't need co-parents, they just need a chance to succeed on their own, and when it comes to the belief that party labels don't matter, that it's conviction and principle that matter, on those fronts, Sun News and Beck's media empire are on the same page. It's not just me saying that. He said it himself on his radio show when he sang our praises last week.
It's more small government, independent. They're really good guys and just smart.
Yeah, Sun News Network, and we talked to the guys at length yesterday, and man, I wonder if I have it. I hope I have it on my cable system somehow.
Really good. Check out Sun News. I don't even know. Is it sunnews.com?
Sunnewsnetwork.ca.
I like it when they say things like that about me. Now, I want you to sit back, relax, maybe get some popcorn, but get ready to enjoy the interview. We'll play it for you, the whole thing, the whole 20 minutes straight through, no commercials, just the way it happened in a cramped green room backstage at a century-old theater in downtown Toronto. That's the byline, and that interview, it's coming up next. You won't want to miss it.